Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. In today's video, we're going to talk about 7 things I wish I knew before I moved to the Netherlands as a student. Now, why should I be talking about this? I consider myself somewhat of an expert. Why, you may ask? I would say that since I've been studying for 4 years in the Netherlands, I somewhat have a grip on what to do if I were helping out a new student. So, for some background, I've done my bachelor's in food technology from Wageningen University, and I did my course for 4 years. And now I'm starting off as a master's student also in food technology at the same university, and I will be done in the next 2 years. So in total I would have spent 6 years in the Netherlands as a student. So let's get on into the video. So the first thing that I wish I knew before I moved here, or you can also consider these somewhat as tips. I'm going to start off as something that I wish I knew, and then I'm going to go on to tips about that topic. So, first off, the biking culture. It is insane. I mean, it's...
That was not funny. That was not funny.
I would say 90% of the Dutch people own a bike, ride a bike to work, to university, or to wherever, to be honest. So I would say it is quite crucial to have a bike. I wouldn't say it is necessarily a problem if you don't have a bike or you don't know how to ride a bike, because if you live like in a building where I live, I can conveniently walk to the grocery store, to all my campus buildings, and also to a lot of other places in Wageningen, because Wageningen is a small town. But I would say if you live in a bigger city, it would always be nicer to have a bike, because otherwise you would be spending quite a lot on your transport from one place to another, because trams and buses are not cheap. And yeah, and by the way, I'm gonna keep looking down because my laptop is in my lap, and that's where I have all the points written down, and I don't want to miss out on anything. And now, when you have a bike, I would say there are some small tips that I would give. I usually don't ride a bike. I will tell you why. Because my bike is stolen. So yeah, and then I just never bothered to buy another bike, because as I said, I live in a very conveniently located building. When you're parking your bike, the bike stands have a lot of bikes. So I would say take a picture at least for the first few times you're parking your bike in a new bike stand, because there is a high possibility that you will forget where your bike was parked, because a lot of bikes look quite similar. So that is one small tip. So yeah. Moving on to the second tip, or second thing, the weather is unpredictable, like, to say the least. Like, that is the nicest way I can put it. It is
a shit show.
Today it is gloomy. Yesterday it was raining. Day before yesterday it was sunny enough that people were sweating. So make of it what you will. One tip I would give you is to get a really nice raincoat, because I would also say an umbrella, but in my personal opinion, I would prefer a raincoat, because when it is raining, it usually is also really, really windy. So there is a high possibility that your umbrella just blows over and you don't have anything to use then. So in that scenario, a raincoat would be way better. And I would also suggest that you usually, when you go out, check the weather, not using the weather app on your phone, but you should get the Dutch weather app called Radar, this icon over here, because it gives you sort of a minute by minute breakdown of the weather, and if it's going to rain and how much precipitation there's going to be today. So it is quite helpful that way. And I would suggest you to layer clothing. I mean, if you're not wearing a jacket and if you're wearing something like this, I'm wearing a crop top, but I carried a jacket to class today because there is no way I would have survived going to class in the morning at 8:20 because it was super foggy and misty and quite chilly in the morning. But now it's pretty decent outside, like I didn't need to wear a jacket while coming back. So I would say just carry an extra layer of clothes. Moving on to the third important thing that I would, and this is, I would say, technically the most important thing, and it is to get a bank account as soon as you can. Because a lot of times what happens is a lot of people, for example, coming from India or the Middle East will not have the Dutch bank accounts, and they will be using, for example, travel cards and forex cards or their own bank cards from their countries, the visa cards, but they do not work here in all places. So for example, when I moved here, I had a travel card, and it was given to me by the university, but it still wasn't of use at Albert Heijn, and that was the first place I went to do my grocery shopping, and I couldn't pay by card. And also then, relating to the story, we went ahead to pay with cash, and the bill was quite high because it was the first time we were doing grocery shopping, and we tried to use a €100 note, but they did not accept it. So if you're coming and you're carrying cash, don't carry banknotes bigger than €50, I would say, because one, no one in this country uses them. Two, even if you are trying to use it, no one's going to accept a banknote probably more than €50. So just a side note. A tip in this case, I would say, would be try to, as soon as you arrive here, try to make a bank account in ABN AMRO, because I think that is one of the only banks in the Netherlands that helps students make bank accounts before they get a BSN number. Because at times what happens is you need to make an appointment with your municipality to get your BSN number, but that appointment can be later on. So it is nice if you already have a bank account set up. Even to get an OV chip card, it is very, very important. So now that I've mentioned the OV chip card, we can segue into point number 4, which is Dutch transportation. I would say it's very, very efficient, but on the same spectrum, it is not cheap. I'm not gonna say it's like super expensive, because I know other countries where it is super expensive, but it is decently priced. For example, I would say going from Wageningen to Amsterdam and coming back would cost me €40, and I don't know, I don't remember what the exact price is right now, but that is what I remember from when I started off 4 years ago. So, and that's not cheap, I would say. Like if you're going and commuting on a regular basis, for example, you haven't found housing in the same city as your university, and commuting back and forth can cost you quite a lot. So in that case, I would recommend you to get an OV chip card. There are two kinds, the blue one and the yellow one. So the blue one is the one you can get immediately when you arrive. You can also get it at the airport when you land from one of the help desks of NS. And also, but the thing with this one is you can only use it till a certain amount of time, and it does not track your expenses and how much you're spending, and you have to keep reloading it with money. But after you get your BSN and your bank account and everything set up, I would suggest that you move on to using the yellow one, because when you use the yellow one, you can connect it to your email and connect it to your bank account, so you can check how much you're spending on your travel on a monthly basis or even on a weekly or daily basis. Another benefit I would say you can get from having the yellow OV chip card is that it's also, by the way, called the personal OV chip card. I would show you mine, but it's in my wallet, so I can't. But you can get sort of package deals, and one that I know that people most commonly use is the weekend free. I mean, students use that one. So that is the weekend free, and what that basically does is you pay like a subscription fee of 30 to 35 euros per month, and all your travel by trains on the weekends is free. So for example, I said it would be 40 euros to go to Amsterdam, but essentially if I have the weekend free, it would not be 40 because I'm already paying 35, and that 40 doesn't get cut off from my bank account, and I can go to Amsterdam as many times as I want, but I don't want to because it's not that great, to be very honest. It's great, but it's not that great. Now that we've talked about the transportation system, I would like to move on to the next point, which is health insurance. And let me tell you something. It is mandatory. And when I say it's mandatory, I mean you can get a fine if you don't have it. So get it. Like, get it as soon as you can, because the moment the government realizes that you're not covered by any insurance, they will first send you a mail letter, and they'll give you two options. You can either get an insurance, and if you don't respond to that mail by a certain date, you will get a fine of about 240 euros or something. Usually I would say if you're a university student, you should be covered by a student insurance, and that is probably in your included in the entire tuition fee you're paying to the university. So I am covered by a student insurance through the university, and that is Aon. But if you're not covered by an insurance, there are multiple options. So there is, I don't know the name of it, but I'm going to insert it here, that one of my friends is using, and that costs her 126 euros per month. And there is also another one that I used for a small time when I wasn't covered by an insurance, and that is Swisscare, and that is usually applicable throughout Europe and also sometimes outside in other countries as well. So get a health insurance. And a side note on this, I would say, as much as they emphasize having a health insurance, it is not necessarily the most helpful thing, because a lot of times when you go to your doctor, they're gonna always suggest you to just eat a paracetamol or a Panadol to just move on, and unless you literally have a broken hand, they do something about it. But if not, it's paracetamol or Panadol. So yeah, I would in that case suggest getting some medication if you're using something on a regular basis from home, and always carry a prescription for the medicines you're using. And I would also tell you to register at a GP, because you're insured, but when you arrive, for example, you register in your municipality in the same way you must register at a GP. Because if you're not registered at a GP, you can't go to the hospital, because your first point of contact when you're sick or when you have a problem is your GP. And there is a website that I'm gonna put the name here, and you can look up which are the GPs in your city, and they also have ratings, etc., and if they talk in English and all those kind of details. You can just click on the link there for that GP, whichever one you prefer, and it'll take you to a website where you can fill a form and register at that GP, because that is necessary if you need to use any medical facilities. You can't just directly go to the hospital until unless it's an emergency. On to point number 6. If you already are in the process of moving, you will know that housing is also a shit show in the Netherlands. It is very difficult to find a place to live. A lot of times people end up sub-renting and keep on couch surfing, and they never end up actually finding a place of their own, and it can be quite difficult. So every city, if you're, for example, moving to Wageningen, for students, there are rooms available on a website called room.nl, and there is also a website called Kamernet, which might not have rooms for Wageningen. I don't know, I've never checked Kamernet actually, but Kamernet has rooms for all across the Netherlands, so I'm pretty sure it also has for Wageningen. And there are different websites for different cities. Another tip for this, I would say, is if you're really desperate and you cannot find anything at all, you can always join Facebook groups that are specific to your city. They would probably be like Wageningen Subrent or Wageningen Housing, Student Plaza, or something like that. Utrecht Subrent, or you'll find multiple variations in these phrases, and you can see if there are any ads being posted. Hope you found these tips sort of helpful. I hope I've put in all the pictures for whatever I was talking about in the website link as well. If you have any more questions or any other things that I should talk about, either put them down in the comments. I can either reply there or we can make a new video about them. If you found this helpful, please like and subscribe, and press the notification bell, and I hope to see you next week. Bye bye.